I am so happy to be here again the second day to share some of my ideas and experiences. And to start with, how to start basic neighborhood communities in the neighborhood, in our own neighborhood. Everyone lives in a particular neighborhood. Nobody can say, I don't live in a neighborhood. I don't have a neighborhood. Anyone lives in a particular neighborhood. The neighborhood may be geographically in a larger area. For example, in Kerala, some houses are in some way situated such a way that there will be a house, then around the house there will be their own farm, rubber farm or coconut farm or whatever it is. Like that, then after the farm ends, somebody else's farm will be there and their houses will be there. But whatever the distance between from one house to the other house doesn't matter. It's a geographically they are neighbors. So at the same time, in the towns, in the cities where we have the apartments, flats, the geographical area is very small. And within one building, there will be 60 families or 60 houses or 70 houses. And in some cases, there may be more. And for example, in my own flat, we have 24 families. And these 24 families are made into one parliament. So like that, neighborhood means people, those who are living in the immediate geographical area. So the extent of the geographical area doesn't matter here. The size of the geographical area doesn't matter here. So everyone lives in a particular neighborhood. So in our own neighborhood, how to start? First, you demark the area of the neighborhood, whether it is in a flat or in a city or in a village. Demark geographical area which we define as neighborhood. That's very important. We should be very clear about which is our neighborhood geographically, where we are going to start this. Now we have found out and we have fixed the area. Once that is done, usually what we propose is that we try to identify the leaders who have influence over the people in the neighborhood. And especially in the rural area, it is very, very apparent that people are, very highly influenced by so-called leaders or various other factors. So whoever has influence over people is a leader. For example, we divide them into 4 categories. That is elected leaders. In the towns, you may have a ward member or a councillor or an elected MLA or whatever it is. Then in the villages, you have ward member, village panchayat head, sarpanch, then above other elected members like MLA, MPs and all. Then we have the second type of leaders. They are called traditional leaders. And it doesn't exist now in many of the areas, and especially in the town, we don't have such a type of leaders. But in a rural area, where the communities are, culturally based, then you have these traditional areas, traditional leaders. Then the third one is the religious leaders, who, if there, see, in every neighborhood, various people will be living, those who belong to various religions, Hindus, Muslims, Christians, Parsis, Sikhs, or whatever it is. So for every religious sect, there is a person who, for example, for Hindus, we have the pujari who makes pujas in the local temple. And he is a religious leader. Then there may be some priests and pastors if there are some Christians living. Or there may be some Maulvis where people, Muslims are living. So everyone's religion has their own teachers or guru or whatever we call, who offers namaz or prayers or offers puja, whatever it is. They are all called religious leaders. And these religious leaders command a very high influence over people. Now, the fourth type of leaders are the employed leaders. And in the city, it doesn't impact very much. But in the rural area, When we say employed leaders, there may be a teacher, there may be a government employee in that particular neighborhood, or whatever who gets a salary, or even people, those who are in the private sector, or even the NGO staff, those who are living in that area. So they are all employed leaders, and they also have certain influence over people. So whoever has a certain influence over people are called leaders. And the first thing what we have to do is identify them. Identify the leaders and try to build a very good relations with these leaders, because our effort is to unite the community, to bring us one family. So if some religious leaders are not in favor of all these people coming together, and in the case of the political leaders, definitely the political leaders may have some reservations in people coming together. And in this case, we have to have their very good relationship with them, so that they support us in our effort of, uh, organizing this community, so that we will form into a group. And while it will take some time, we'll have to identify them, get their contact numbers and speak to them. They may not be living in the same neighborhood. For example, the Maulvi may not be living in the same neighborhood. They may be living somewhere else, but he comes here only on during the prayer time to conduct the prayers. So a priest or a pastor may not be living in the same neighborhood, but maybe living somewhere else, but he has got some influence over the people, those who live here. The same way with pujaris and other people. So those leaders may not be living exactly there. They may be living elsewhere, but they will be having a very high influence over these people. So they have to be identified and build good relationship. And building relationship is very, very, very important in our context for our work. So we have to come out of our own selves, be open, transparent, pure, with a pure love and care and concern for others. And that type of attitude and approach has to be applied in building relationship. And in the process, we also have to do some another type of homework to find out the history of the neighborhood or the village, or the data in the neighborhood or the village, so that we have some solid information about the neighborhood. For example, the number of families, how many women are there, how many children are there, how many adults are there, I mean men are there, and how many pregnant women are there, how many disabled people are there, or how many transgenders are there. All these are data. And how many children go to school, and how many do not go to school, and what do they do if they don't go to school, and how many child labors may be there, and more or less what is the income of the families, what is the main occupation, and all that. These are the informations, and which has to be gathered. And we will talk very in detail perhaps when we talk the third subject of PLA. And after having that informations, according to the informations, then after building a very good relationship with the leaders, then we reach the families, the members in our neighborhood, with whom we are going to organize the neighborhood community. And building relationship here is very, 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 very important. And in some cases, it may be very difficult to meet people, and especially in the cities. In the villages, it is not like that. There may be some little troubles here and there, but that can be easily managed, and people can just get into the neighbor's house and talk and all that. But in the cities, it is very difficult. People don't keep their doors open, and they don't open the doors also because of the issue of safety and security in the cities. Even in my own flat today, this morning, there were two ladies who had just come, strangers, knocking the doors of the people, and the watchman had to get them out. So anyone can come at any point of time and knock your door, and you don't know who they are, and they are strangers, and any untoward incident may happen. So safety and security. So I don't blame the people, those who live in the cities, but that's how it is. But on this condition, our working with our neighbors, we have to build a very good relationship with every neighbor. And now the pandemic, so we are restrained, restricted the movements, our movements, so we cannot meet people and all that. And now it is okay, it's better, but earlier it was very, very difficult. Even now, we can just go talk to them, get their phone number, create a WhatsApp group among the community, and start chatting with them and get them into our confidence. It's very, very important. They should know who we are, why we are trying to talk to them, why we want our relationship with them, why we value them, why we take them in high regards, why we want them to come together, to travel together as one family. This all has to be shared, and they should have a real faith in us. They should believe us. Otherwise, it will be difficult. Of course, in some cases, we find a very difficult situation. Some people just do not care to talk to people. Some people just do not open their door at all. And even if they open, they will just keep it little open, ask, what do you want? Why do you knock my door? No, that type of approach. So which means people are not ready to open up. And that is, we don't blame them. In this case, we have to understand them better, which means they have their own experiences of not coming out. That means they need more care, more concern, more love from our side. And we have to be very, very, very patient. We cannot be impatient or intolerant. It is not a press button solution. You just go and press the door and they open and you talk and they come. No, it may not happen. It will take some days, because so long we've been living in the same flat, but we don't know each other. Perhaps once in a way, when we just get down or get in, we just say hi or give a smile. More than that, we don't know. So it takes some time to build this relationship, and building relationship with every person, every family is very, very important to organize these neighborhood communities. Once that is done, once people know what is our intention, once people come to understand what is the purpose of people coming together, then we slowly open up the matter that we come together to take charge of our neighborhood. There are so various problems in the neighborhood which can be solved by us if we come together. It's not that we have to spend money always to solve the problem, but we can get the support of the government officials, elected members, elected leaders, or any other group, agencies, or even NGOs for that matter. Get their help so that our problems can be solved. So this is very, 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 very important. So once everyone comes to a clear-cut understanding that we need to come together, as I shared yesterday, why I need to come together in the neighborhood, why I should know everyone. A group has to come together. I explained it yesterday very clearly. So that need has to be felt by every family. It's very, very important. And the basic requirement for all this is the person who initiates this process has to be really a talented, skilled person, skilled in building a relationship with each other, and a person who can really understand others, understand their mindset, who can see things from their points of view, who can really accept the reality, not living in the air. And there are so many reasons, so many skills which is required to build a relationship. And people nowadays, find it difficult even to smile. You see people on the road in the cities, they walk here and there. Everyone is busy. You just try to say a hello to a stranger, he will stare at you and walk. Because that building, that type of human relationship is slowly becoming uncommon among us. I remember in when I was young in my own village, a rural area, very obscure village, where this relationship was very, very high. Because the moment they are free, they just sit outside the house and all the neighbors will come and talk. That was a habit. And their sharing of their ideas, sharing of their things, their sharing, everything was there. And these days I am hearing from European countries, the time bank. If you are free, if you have free time, then you spend the time for somebody else, and it is added in your account, time bank account. Then you need somebody else's service, and they just help you. They spend that time for you. This is called time bank. Now, in the villages, in the olden days, it was very, very common. Even now, the agricultural families, fishing communities, they share their time with others so that when they need others' time, they come back. They come and help. So this type of sharing their own talents, skills, and even their time, energy, everything was there. But nowadays, even in the villages, it has become difficult. And in the cities, definitely it is very, very difficult. Very, very. I want to share my own experience with my own neighbor. I'm living in a flat of 24 families. I'm living on the last floor up. That is the third floor or fourth floor. Then there is, there are 6 houses in the same floor and 4 floors, so 24 houses. When I came here for the first time, I did not know anyone. And I did not want to know also. Similarly, with anyone else also. They did not want to know. There was no need for knowing the neighbor. So I was living there for 3 years. Then one day I went to one of my friend's marriage. It's about few kilometers away from my home. I went there. There was the marriage ceremony going on, and there was the music being played and all that. So I wanted to spend some time there, you know, and I was looking around and I did not find anyone who is known to me, except the friend who is getting married, who was getting married. Okay. So I found a group of people, you know, sitting around and talking to each other in a smaller groups all over the hall, marriage hall. And I was finding a small group of people sitting in one place and talking. I said, they were all my age group of people. So I said, okay, I will go and sit with them and talk. So I went there, I introduced myself. I'm so-and-so, coming from so-and-so place. And can I join you? He said, yeah, please come. And when I said I am coming from the place, I mean, T Nagar, one of the person who was sitting in the group, oh, I see you are coming from T Nagar. I am also from T Nagar only, he said. I said, very happy, very nice, very, very nice. And from which street in T Nagar, I asked. He said the same street name where I live, that is Dr. Thomas Road. Oh, I also live in Dr. Thomas Road. Very good, very nice. And which apartment? Because in Thomas Road, only apartments are there. There is no any private house, single house, independent house. All are flats. Then I asked which flat you are living in. He said, I'm living in Satya apartment. I was shocked because I am also living in Satya apartment. And I am living there for 3 years. And I said, I am also living in the same flat and I have never seen you. And which floor you are living? He said, I am living on the 4th floor. My house number is T6. And I am living in T5. That means only a wall between my house and his house. I was really ashamed. I said, I am living in T5. And he said, he is living here for 5 years. And I am living for 3 years. And we don't know each other. And we have to get introduced about 70 kilometers away from my house to a neighbor who is just the next to the wall. This is how we live in the cities. We don't know. And we don't want to know. And there is no need at all to know. But here in this situation, we have to ensure that we know, we knock the doors. Some people may just shut the door on our face, doesn't matter. But it is very, very important for us to know each other, to build this relationship with each other, so that this community about which we are talking about, the neighborhood community, is established. It's very, very important. And coming together, it's not only we building relationship, and every neighbor has to come together with every neighborhood and every neighbor has to build that relationship with every neighbor. That's very, very important. And this will grow. This building relationship issue will keep on growing as we keep on meeting often. So that's how it is. And once we know each other and everyone knows each other, then we start the real functioning of the neighborhood communities, I mean the parliament, which we were explaining yesterday. Okay. Now, in some case, it may be a bit difficult. Doesn't matter. Basically, people are good. Everyone is good. Because due to their past experiences or some disappointments or some difficult situations or, of certain negative experiences, they may not open up as early as possible as we expect. And in that case, if they are not opened up, that means they need more of our care. They need more of our compassion. They need more of our concern and more of our sharing with them. That's what it means. So it takes some time to bring all this, but definitely over a point of time, definitely we can win every neighbors in the neighborhood and start building this neighborhood community. And here I stop with the first topic, because there's a lot of details which we can get into. And I am just trying to shorten it due to the time factor. The next one is meetings of basics neighborhood communities. So we, after organizing these groups, yesterday I was talking about electing ministers for various concerns. I think, I don't know whether I talked elaborately, but I must have given some introduction about it. Now, this neighborhood has to meet regularly. In the beginning, it may not be for a business meeting. It may not be for an official meeting, even for getting together. Just a get together. Just to share a coffee or a tiffin or some snacks, to build a relationship. And sometimes even you can celebrate somebody's birthdays or some marriage anniversaries or some national days or even international days or some festivals in common. All can celebrate Diwali, no? It is not that only Hindus have to celebrate Diwali. It's a celebration after all. Celebrations means sharing of joy. So everyone can, Muslims, Christians, Sikh, Parsis, everyone can celebrate Diwali, come together and share the joy of our brothers in the neighborhood. And everyone can celebrate Bakrid and Ramzan. Everyone can celebrate Christmas, or everyone can celebrate Buddha Purnima, or whatever it is, or the day of the Guru's festival and all that, and common festivals and cultural festivals, or any special day, national or international, can be celebrated. And to be more specific, the members' birthdays or any members' families' members' birthdays or anniversaries, marriage anniversary, that and this, there are so many things which can be celebrated. The reason for celebration is that the joy of somebody is shared with everyone. When the joy is shared, it doubles. And we build a joyous community. And so we keep on doing it regularly, once in a week, so that we keep on meeting. Then slowly we get into the business meeting. Business meeting is a very serious meeting. And as we saw earlier, there are certain serious issues which has to be dealt very seriously. So for that, we'll have a very systematic meeting and regular meeting. And when we say systematic meeting, it is not that we just come casually, then we talk something and go off. No, we record the meeting so that whatever is discussed, is recorded properly, and whatever decision we have taken is recorded properly, and whatever resolution we have passed, it is also recorded and signed by everyone and all that. So for that, we have a small procedure which is prepared. And of course, this can be adopted little here and there to suit the situation of that particular neighborhood. But if they follow all these process, it will be very good. First, they start with the common introduction. For example, when in the socio-critical method of conducting meeting, they will call it open round. Open round is opening round, they say, to make everyone who were present to come into a common level, sharing about each one's situation, experience then and there, or the work what they have done and all that, so that they come to a level. But with in our context, they some sing some social song or even prayer song, they start with that. Then once that is done, the speaker for the meeting is elected. The speaker means the facilitator who is going to facilitate the meeting, because facilitating meeting is a skill. So everyone has to have a chance to facilitate a meeting. So for every meeting, there will be a different speaker. So the leader of the group proposes somebody's name to be the speaker or the facilitator for that meeting, and somebody seconds, then the facilitator or the speaker takes charge of it. Once that person takes charge, then he calls the home minister. We call the ministers, the secretary. Since we name it as neighborhood parliament, we name the members as ministers, and we use those terms. Then here in our context, we can use it as a president, secretary, or a treasurer, or other members, a special member for this concern or that concern, or whatever it is. So the facilitator asks the secretary to read the previous minutes of the previous meeting, which means the secretary has to record the minutes of the meetings and keep it ready for this meeting to be read. So he reads it. After reading it, the speaker or the facilitator asks whether there is any change in the minutes. I mean, any addition or deletion which has to be done. Once it is done, then it is passed by everyone. The facilitator asks everyone whether this minutes can be passed. When everyone says yes, it can be passed, then the speaker, facilitator, takes the note of the minutes and he signs. Then the prime minister signs. Then the secretary or the president or the secretary, they sign. If they sign, that means the minutes is passed. Then once that is done, the facilitator asks the finance minister or the treasurer to read the finance report. Finance report is only 4 lines or 5 lines. It is not account. Account is different. Keeping account is different. But this is only the report of the previous week regarding finance. What was the earlier balance, and what was the collection in the week, and what is the expenses made in the week, and what is the balance now, and all these reports. Then that is also passed, and the speaker of that meeting and the president and the treasurer signed the record, finance report. Then the facilitator asks all the members if there are any issues on which we have to discuss today. So the agenda is not fixed. If there is any very, very urgent issue which has to be discussed, then the agenda is shared in the beginning of the meeting. Otherwise, he asks everyone if there is any issue which has to be discussed. So every member, the members are whom we call minister for education, health, that and this. If there is issue according to the survey what they have taken, based on the survey, if there is any issue raised, then that is raised in the meeting. And there may be hundreds of or 30 issues raised because 30 ministers are there, or more or less. all the issues cannot be discussed in one meeting. So they again go for a round to finalize which is the most important and most urgent issue which has to be discussed for today's meeting. And that particular issue is taken up for a discussion, and every member gives the opinion about that issue and the solution. And based on that, then a decision is made, a proposal is made, what we can do and things like that. Once the decision is, it's all consent based, which was explained yesterday and day before yesterday. It's all purely consent based decision making process. And with everyone's consent, a decision is made, and that particular decision is recorded as a resolution. It is recorded as a resolution, and every member signs the resolution, which means I am part of this resolution. I am part of this decision. I agreed to abide by this decision. You know, that is the meaning of it. Then once that is done, then they prepare an action plan. Preparing an action plan is very important thing. They may take a decision, but who is going to implement the decision? When and where? How? This all has to be planned. So we call it action plans. What we are going to do, when we are going to do, where we are going to do, who all going to do, who are the people going to take charge of doing the thing, whichever we have decided to do, then how we are going to do. So there is a principle, 5 workers and 1 head principle. 5 workers means 5 W's. What, when, where, who, and why. This all is done by W's. Then 1 head, that is how we are going to do. So if we have a specific answers for all these questions, what we are going to do, why we are going to do, when we are going to do, where we are going to do, and who is going to do. And if we give a specific answer to all these questions, then that is what is the action plan. Once that is prepared, finalized, and the secretary or the parliamentary affairs minister records all that, then they evaluate the previous meeting's action plans. In the previous meeting, there would have been some action plan already taken. Whether that is implemented, if it is implemented, how it was implemented, what is the success rate of that, or what are the difficulties they faced, they evaluate that. Or if they could not implement, what was the reason they could not implement, whether they need to be replanned and all that. They do all that things, and whatever is needed, they decide. Once that is done, then the parliamentary affairs minister reads the resolution, the decision, the resolution, the action plan for the final approval of all the members. Then everyone gives the consent that it is done perfectly. Then once that is done, they ask, the facilitator asks about the next meeting. They fix, when are we going to have our next meeting, where and all that, the timing, something like that. Then they reconfirm the whole thing, reconfirm the meeting. Then they end with the closing round. Everyone shares 1 sentence, something about the meeting or the observations or what impressed them or something like that. Now in this process, when we have for the children parliament, 2 more things are added. One is when the facilitator takes charge, he asks somebody to give a welcome speech. The reason for having this particular agenda is that every child has to learn to speak in front of everyone. So welcome speech means it is not for 5 minutes, only 5 sentences. I welcome the speaker, I welcome the ministers or the members, and I welcome the special guest, I welcome the coordinator who has come to train us, or whatever it is, that's all, 4 or 5 sentences. So every child learns to speak in front of everyone. That is to make the child come out. No? And at the same time, at the last, towards the end of the meeting, just before the closing round, a vote of thanks. the speaker asks somebody, some child, to say vote of thanks. The vote of that particular child says vote of thanks. This is specifically meant for children so that the children learn to speak. But for the youth and the adult, these two things can be skipped. Does it matter? So this is a procedure of the meeting. Now we will go to the third part of the today's discussion. That is PLA. As I said in the first part of today's talk, collecting the data is very, very important. We should know about our own neighborhood, in what type of neighborhood we are living. Each neighborhood, or especially each habitation or each village has its own history. And in the village context, there will be a lot of history. There will be a lot of stories about the village. So we should know about our own area where we live. And not only the history, when we say history, what came first here? When it came? For example, in the village, it is very relevant. When there was a road built in the village for the first time, or when the bus came, public transport came to the village for the first time. Who bought the cycle for the first time? Who bought a radio or a TV, or who bought the watch, a wristwatch in the village for the first time? This all is a history. And the village must have contributed something to the country. For example, there are some villages where there are many teachers. So having so many teachers from a particular village is a contribution to the country. There may be so many military people working in the military, and this is a contribution towards the country. There may be something specifically meant for culturally from the village, and that is a contribution to the country. So all this history has to be recorded so that we know what type of situation we are living, what is our cultural background, and what are the things which is our strength and all that. Now, having all this history and data collections, we have mapping exercises. And this is a fantastic exercise. And here, when we say PLA tool is used, participatory learning activities, that means the whole group divides into a smaller group. There may be 30 families. We divide them into 3 families or 4 families or 3 members or 4 members. And each group, subgroup comes together to prepare various number of mappings. And we start with geographical mapping. The geographical mapping of the neighborhood can be prepared by one group. Geographical mapping means if it is in the city context, the roads, the pathways, the flat and the buildings, structure and all that. And if it is in the village context, then the road, school, that and this, whatever is being around in the neighborhood, a dumping yard, whatever it is. So all can be brought into this type of geographical mapping. Then social mapping. When the social mapping comes, anything connected to the society. For example, if there is a school, if there is a pond, or if there is a water line, connection line, or if there is a police station, or if there is a health station, or a health center, or any private tuition center, or any private health center, anything, including the houses, the road and all that, can be made into mapping. So there are number of mappings which can be done. For example, we have about 12 mappings. So 12 smaller groups can come together and everyone contributes to do the mapping. It's a drawing actually, and writing the details. And we must have, we may have learned our these mappings and namings and all in the school days or the college days. The same thing for the neighborhood. So that we are equipped with the real information. It's not that we are living just for the sake of living or vaguely. No, we are strong with enough information of our neighborhood, so that everyone contributes the best possible to the community. Then the third one is infrastructural mapping. What are the type of infrastructure we have in the neighborhood? Any infrastructure, specifically the lamp post, electricity, this thing, post box, or net connecting e service centers, or road and transport, or the bus stand, or whatever it is. Any infrastructure which is required, which is there, has to be made into mapping. Then the fourth mapping is a seasonal mapping. It's another very important mapping. See, in all over the world, there are various seasons, like summer season, rainy season, winter season, and all that. Why we need to have the seasonal mapping is, the season is connected with so many things. For example, the season is connected with the disease, the sickness which will spread in the community. For example, in the summer season, a particular disease spreads in the community. In the winter season, a particular disease spreads in the community. In the rainy season, a particular disease spreads in the community. So, to know, to be prepared, to be alert, we need to have this seasonal mapping. It's not only for the health issues. There are so many things. For example, festivals. In a particular season, a particular festival is celebrated. So when we start celebrating festivals, there are so many issues connected to the festivals. Social issue, economical issue, and all that. Because celebration is expenses. In the inner part, it is, celebrations means joy, but expenses is connected with that. So seasonal mapping is prepared such a way that that we are aware, we become alert, and we are prepared for eventualities of anything. For example, in the summer season, the schools will be on holidays, which means they may be neighborhood members planning for their family outing, which means some of them may not be there, which means the others, those who are going to go, those who are going to remain, those who are not going out, has to take care of the rest of the neighbors, those who have gone. Now, you know how when the houses are locked for 2-3 days, immediately it is broke open and things are stolen. But when when particular neighbor is going out for something, or on some work, or some picnic, or some seasonal work, then can inform the community, so that I am not going to be here for 15 days, or 10 days, or 4 days, 5 days. Please take care. So that the community takes care of all the safety and security of that house or those members. And there are so many other things which are connected with seasonal mapping, which we can see in details when we come to that particular topic later. Then we have income mapping. The income mapping is very, very important to know what is the type of income people have, and to find out if there is any poor people with less income in the neighborhood, so that the other members can try to help that family, not by giving money. Giving money is not going to solve the problem. You can give once or twice. That is not going to solve the problem. But there are other very experimented and successful methods we have to eradicate poverty, to ensure that the income of every family is decently enough to run the family. That will be dealt with in some other subject. And so these type of things has to be known to everyone. Some people don't disclose. They may feel a bit bad. Doesn't matter. They need not exactly disclose what is happening, but at least the source of income, how do they manage? Are they employed or self-employed or whatever it is? Because there may be some strength, there may be some doctors, there may be some electricians, there may be some nurses, there may be some plumbers in the neighborhood. These are the source of income. When we have the income mapping, these details are collected, so that the neighborhood can utilize the services of all these members. That's very, very important. Then the next, this thing is the same. It's connected to that income, that is occupational mapping, and it creates a very clear-cut data of people's occupation and how they are engaged and how skilled they are. They may be teachers, advocates, whose service can be utilized by the community and all that. And then literacy mapping. How much people have studied, each member, how much he has studied, what type of studies he has made. That's very, very important. Literacy mapping. And when we have the literacy mapping, we will know. Because, of course, I don't believe the academical qualification is not going to decide the skill of a person. But at the same time, to have a basic idea, not to discriminate. I have studied so much and that person has not studied anything, or he is less educated, not for that purpose, but to help each other. And there may be a child which is not going to school, or there may be a youth may not attending the college. There may be some reasons for it. So to know, to help that family, so that every child and every youth, do the studies well and support each other. And when we talk about the literacy, the level of the study, when some children are very poor in something, in some subjects, so they can be supported by the neighbors who are good at it. Maybe few children may not be good in maths. So there may be somebody in the neighborhood who is very good, is an expert in maths, can support that child, something like that. Then we have resource mapping. This is another important mapping which has to be done in the neighborhood. Every neighborhood has its own resource. In the rural area, the resource is very high. Very, very high. We say it is a very poor village, nothing is there. And people all migrate from that village to the cities. We can't believe. There is some resource which is not tapped properly by the people there. And in the cities, in the neighborhood, in a flat, there may not be a resource of that. But there are other type of resources. Human resource. Skills. It's a resource. Talents. It's a resource. When we talk about the skills and talents, there may be a good artist. There may be a good story writer. There may be a good dancer. There may be a good cinematographer. These all resource. Very important resource in the neighborhood, which can be utilized by the community for the benefit of that particular person as well as for the benefit of the community. So resource mapping is very, very important. Then we have health mapping. The health issues of families. There may be some people they're sick, for a longer duration. For example, there may be some asthmatic patient, or there may be patients with cancer. They may be patient with diabetics or pressure or something else, or disabled people with the disabilities. Or, there are so many things connected with health. When I talk about health, it's not only the physical health. I'm talking about the mental health, the emotional health. The person may be physically perfect, but he always barks at somebody, which means his emotional health is to be taken care. So that type of mapping, not to blame anyone, not to look down on anyone, or not to put down anyone, but to help each other. All these mappings and data are to help each other in the community. So health mapping is very, very important. There may be some health workers like nurses, health workers, doctors. This all, is very, in the occupational mapping we have. So this all can connect with these health issues. Then we have environmental mapping. It's very, very important to develop the ecological balance in the neighborhood. There may be now, in the cities, we call it concrete jungles. trees are cut right and left. You know what it means? That we are killing ourselves. We are digging the graves of our own future generations. So environmental mapping, there may be little small place around which can be utilized to grow trees. For example, in our own campus, we have little spaces here and there, plenty of plants. Plenty of plants. And even in the terrace, we have plenty of plants. So we have enough green in our flat. So like that, if there is a common place, some trees can be planted. We had planted some trees. You know, it's not only it is for environment, for our own sake. When we see something green, you know, our emotional upheavals comes down. Our balance, we are balanced. Our emotion is balanced. Our mental structure, you know, gets balanced when we see green around. That's very, very important. Environmental mapping. When we talk about it, it's not a big thing about climate change and all that. Even small little things which we can contribute. It's very, very important. For that, we need to have the environmental mapping. And in the village context, the rural area, they do the mapping of flora and fauna and all that. What are the trees and plants which were existing 50 years back, which is not existing now, which has disappeared, vanished. There are lots of this type of plants have vanished, or the birds and animals which has vanished, extinct it has become. So to know all that and recreate that environmental mapping will be very useful. Then we have water bodies mapping. Water bodies mapping, very, very important, so that to save the water bodies in the neighborhood so that everyone gets a good, enough good potable water. Not only potable water, for even other purposes. Then finally, we have dream mapping. Dream mapping is, what is a dream I have for my neighborhood? Say after 5 years, how should be my neighborhood? Yeah, dream mapping. All these mappings are done by participatory learning activities of members into small group of 3 or 4. They come together, put all their head together, put all their talents together, put all their informations together and prepare this mapping. And this is what is, we call it PLA. And this PLA tool can be used for data collection, for collecting the history of the village, or for any other purposes. There are so many other purposes. Even PLA can be used in the families. The whole family can come sit together to study certain aspects of the family, which can be used. So this is what all I wanted to share today.